Barack Obama is the 44th President of the United States and the first African American to be elected into office. Barack Hussein Obama Jr. was born in Honolulu in 1961. He attended Punahou Private School and studied at Occidental College for 2 years. He then transferred to Columbia University and graduated with a degree in political science in 1983. He then went to Harvard University in 1988. In 1996, Obama won the election in Illinois State Senate. He won support from the Democrats and Republicans with legislation on ethics and healthcare reform. As Senator Obama spoke out against the Bush administration on the Iraqi war, he wanted to take the troops out of Iraq. He also focused on nuclear non-proliferation and the avian flu. On February 10, 2007, Obama officially announced his intention to run for president. He ran in the 2008 election. He chose Joseph Biden Jr. as his vice president. Arizona Senator John McCain ran against Obama. McCain was a Vietnam War veteran and a prisoner of war. Sarah Palin was his running mate and would have been the first woman vice president. Obama was an early front-runner in the election. He won over Virginia, Indiana, Florida, and Ohio, all imperative to winning the candidacy. Obama was inaugurated January 20, 2009, becoming the 44th president.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
On this day, we gather because we have chosen hope over fear. It's that we're putting Americans to work, doing the work that America needs done. We will rebuild, we will recover, and the United States of America will emerge stronger than before. We cannot succeed in this endeavor alone, but we can lead it, we can start it. It is time for us to transition to the Iraqis. I say to you that the challenges we face are real. They are serious and they are many. But know this, America, they will be met.
Congress passed an economic stimulus package on February 17 in 2009, and Obama signed it into law on the 21st. It provided $288 billion in tax relief for businesses and working families. $224 billion of federal money went into education, welfare, and healthcare. He also put $275 billion in federal loans, grants, and contracts. Overall, they spent $787 billion, and it improved the economy, but it did not take us out of the recession completely. Obama also famously passed the much-debated Obamacare, otherwise known as the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. It provided security and stability for people with health insurance. Healthcare became much more affordable for families. It intended to strengthen consumers' rights and to provide insurance coverage and easier access to medical care. Most importantly, the uninsured were guaranteed insurance.
During Obama's term 2 of the Supreme Court Justice, David Souter and John Paul Stevens retired. Because Supreme Court justices stay in office until they're chosen to retire, choosing justice is a big deal. Both retiring justices were liberals, and Obama replaced them with Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan. Sonia Sotomayor was the first Hispanic Supreme Court justice, and they were both liberals, so he didn't impact the balance of the court. Obama struggled with his relationship with Congress at times. During his first term, there were automatic cuts put in place if Congress didn't make a new plan to reduce the deficit by March 1st. These new cuts involved cutting $85 billion, half from defense and the other portion from domestic programs. Republicans in Congress and Obama were unable to reach the agreement, and these cuts were implemented. When Obama took office in 2008, the war in both Iraq and Afghanistan were taking place. The borders of Iraq were established by the United Nations, who gave control of Iraq to the United Kingdom. Iraq established a monarchy in 1921 and then gained its independence from Britain in 1932. The monarchy was overthrown in 1958 by the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party. Iraq was controlled by the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party from 1968 to 2003. The United States then started the war in Iraq by invading and overthrowing Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party. Obama then created a multi-party parliamentary elections. The United States left Iraq in 2011, which led to the Iraq Civil War. Iraq War resulted in deaths of 4,491 Americans. The New START Treaty was signed April 8, 2010. It reduced the amount of nuclear weapons that the U.S. and Russia were allowed to have by half. This treaty, more formally called the Measures of Further Reduction and Limitation of Strategic Offense Arms, was enacted February 5, 2011. The removal of these nuclear weapons must be completed by February 5, 2018, 7 years after it was officially launched. The Afghanistan War was started after the events that occurred on September 11, 2001. The United States invaded Afghanistan to prevent the Taliban extremists and al-Qaeda from using their country as a base for terrorism. The United States demanded that the Taliban hand over Osama bin Laden, the leader of the terrorist group al-Qaeda. Osama bin Laden was said to have been responsible for the leading attacks on 9/11. Osama bin Laden was wanted by the United Nations for his actions of terror. Osama bin Laden was found by the Navy SEALs and was killed on May 2, 2011.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children. It was nearly 10 years ago that a bright September day was darkened by the worst attack on the American people in our history. The images of 9/11 are seared into our national memory. Hijacked planes cutting through a cloudless September sky, the Twin Towers collapsing to the ground, black smoke billowing up from the Pentagon, the wreckage of Flight 93 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the actions of heroic citizens saved even more heartbreak and destruction. And yet we know that the worst images are those that were unseen to the world. The empty seat at the dinner table, children who were forced to grow up without their mother or their father, parents who would never know the feeling of their child's embrace, nearly 3,000 citizens taken from us, leaving a gaping hole in our hearts.
The war continued for about a year following this. This war resulted in deaths of 2,200 Americans. Obama was able to reduce the number of troops that were in service from 180,000 troops to 30,000 troops in Afghanistan and 1,000 in Iraq.
Benghazi was an attack on September 11, 2012, where Islamic military men attacked American diplomats that were stationed in Libya. This resulted in the deaths of 2 American diplomats, U.S. Ambassador J. Christopher Stevens and U.S. Foreign Service Information Management Officer Sean Smith. A couple of hours later, a few miles from the first attack, another attack occurred, resulting in the deaths of CIA contractors Tyrone S. Woods and Glenn Doherty. In the process, 10 others were injured. Many of the Libyans were upset by the attacks, and many demonstrations occurred that condemned the Islamic military. The United States immediately increased security worldwide at diplomatic and military facilities to prevent events such as these from occurring more than once. This attack wasn't taken lightly by the United States. Many investigations and arrests took place following this act to ensure that justice was brought to those who took the lives of American citizens. Obama can be comparable to several previous presidents. When Roosevelt took office in 1933, he immediately faced economic issues. President Reagan took office in 1981 when the economy was also suffering. They were similar to Obama because Obama came into office in the middle of a recession and was expected to act quickly to improve the economy. Obama can also be compared to LBJ. LBJ created Medicare and Obama created Obamacare. These are similar in the fact that they both provide people with aid for health insurance. Since Obama is still currently in his second term in office, his legacy isn't complete yet. He will be remembered for his creation and passing of the Affordable Health Care Act, better known as Obamacare. This has already given 16 million people health insurance. He will be remembered for bringing a close to the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. He will also be remembered for the decisive order to kill Osama bin Laden. He will be remembered for developing and implementing a foreign policy that limited Iran's nuclear ambitions. Not to mention, he has safeguarded the United States from the violent drives of ISIS. However, the main thing that Obama will be remembered for is being the first African American to be President of the United States. The United States must now sit back and watch what other legacies Obama will leave behind in his last 2 years of his presidency.